Chris Carter here, the Locked On Steelers podcast. We give you our reaction here to the Steelers' 27-14 win over the Browns, how the offense got it together, how the defense also made adjustments, and how this team is looking really complete, sitting at 10-3, going into their final 4 games of the season. It's the Locked On Steelers podcast. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things of the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making us your first listen every day because we're your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL, and you'll win $50 instantly when you play $5. Steelers fans, it is a victory Monday here on the Locked On Steelers podcast because your Pittsburgh Steelers have taken down the Cleveland Browns 27-14 in a very decisive win. It looked, you might say, oh, it's just 13 points. They could have put up a lot more on them. They held off. They were being classy at the end, not wanting to run up the score on them. But this was a balanced team win. Offense, defense, special teams, all pitching in. Chris Boswell being cash money. Ben Skowronek getting a punt fumble recovery at the end of the game that basically sealed it. Russell Wilson adjusting mid-game. The defense adjusting mid-game. All really good signs of this Steeler team and their ability to win in these games. And again, they're going in. Here's this gauntlet that was talked about. The Steelers, how are they going to survive the second half of the season? Well, 5 games in, they're 4-1 in that gauntlet of a second half of the season. Also 3-1 in their first in playing 4 straight games against divisional opponents. And I think there's a lot of things you could point to about this game. Also, the fact that they did not have George Pickens, which we did not think was going to happen when we recorded our Friday episode. Granted, we also recorded our Friday episode on Tuesday because of complications, but you get my point. That was not the anticipation when that hamstring injury popped up on the Friday injury report for the Steelers. It was like, what happened there? And then all of a sudden, George Pickens, he's expected to play, and then he doesn't play. And then you find that out about an hour and a half before game time, and you're like, that's a big problem because he's like the biggest weapon in the offense. But the Steelers win with balanced offense anyways. It's distributing the football around. Russell Wilson, another game where he hits several guys, 9 players in total in this one. I asked him about the impact of that and how that went, and also Jerry Dulac of the Post-Gazette, my colleague there, followed that up with asking about how the team adjusted to not having Pickens. Listen to how Russell Wilson talks about both those factors, and then I want to dive into some things that I thought I saw when watching this game. But here's Russell Wilson after the Steelers win over the Browns. Russ, 10 players caught the ball last week, 9 different guys this week, including those back shoulder deep balls to Scotty and Mike. What does it say about this offense that you can keep distributing the football to so many different places?
Yeah, I think the fact that we got so many guys that we can trust. I think, obviously 9 guys caught it this week. Last week, 10 guys. I think that the guy that we're missing was George, the 10th. But I just think that, guys, we have so much confidence in everybody. I think how we play together, we're having fun, we're enjoying the process, we're working our tails off every day. It's about winning. It's about that process of that. So we're doing the right things. We've got to get better. We've got to keep working. But, man, we're having a lot of fun. I think that when you got guys that can step up like Scotty Miller, today, which is unbelievable plays by him. Made some, great plays. I trust him. I have no doubt he's going to make a great play. Just try to give him a chance to put the ball where only he can get it. Same thing with Big Mike. Obviously we traded for him in a big way. Obviously his first catch as a Pittsburgh Steelers was a touchdown against Commanders to win the game for us. In a way he kind of helped seal the game this week too, and with some big catches on 3rd down. So there's guys that we trust. Obviously. We want to be able to facilitate the ball to everybody and just make it really hard on the defense.
What kind of adjustments?
How big of an adjustment without George in the line?
Say it one more time.
How big of an adjustment without George in the line?
Yeah, obviously, listen, George is, arguably, in my opinion, one of the best receivers in the National Football League. Anytime he's on the field, it's a good thing for us. We love George out there. We were hoping he's going to be able to go, and everything else. But, I think that, the trainers and everybody made the right decision at the last second there. Just, hey, it may not be we got a lot of season left, and we got a lot more games, and we want him as good as he can be. We don't want something bad to happen to him. So he was hoping to get in there and play.
And let's do this right now on the Locked On Steelers podcast, because we know how the rumor mills spin out in the world. As Brian Batko, another colleague of mine at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, pointed out mid-game, you could see George Pickens on the sidelines talking to Mike Tomlin in between plays, both kind of smiling and joking with each other. If there's anyone out there saying that this was a Tomlin move to silence his wide receiver or to punish him or anything like that, I'm sorry, I highly doubt it. George Pickens doesn't come off as the guy that would have taken that smiling and goofing around on the sideline with the head coach after such a decision. I think this was purely, they probably saw this game and they said, look, it's the Browns. We should be able to beat the Browns. And so they're going to sit their star receiver and not risk him getting hurt before they play 3 games in 11 days or 11 days, whatever day, how many days it is. But still, they got a rough patch coming up, and you want him healthy for those games. You figured you can win this game, and you went ahead and did it. And I think it goes again to Russ being able to adjust in game, because you look at this early on, it looked like the Steelers offense was struggling. 4 of their first 5 drives were 3-and-out punts, and it was looking really bad. Their only drive other than that was a field goal, and that was a field goal that there was a drive that started in Cleveland territory. So like the Steelers, got a break there, but then all of a sudden, second quarter, they start to click. They get the Keeanu Benton interception, which we will get to the defense. They're a big part of this story as well. I just want to start with the offense here, but you get the interception. And you get a touchdown drive right off of that. You feed off of that, and then you get another long drive that's called back for an offensive pass interference penalty on Mike Williams. But you do get a field goal out of that, 10 points in back-to-back drives going into the half. And then you get the ball back with 23 seconds. Can't really do much there. But then as soon as you get the ball back in the third quarter, touchdown. And that right there was what kind of put the game really out of reach for the Browns. Their offense wasn't really able to do much until the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter, and the Steelers had pretty much sealed it up. But I think a big thing about this was how Russell Wilson found different ways to attack down the field. I thought he should have been throwing to Pat Freiermuth earlier. I was saying, why doesn't he have more targets? Why didn't he have more targets? Well, eventually he got him, and he got a big one that set up Najee Harris's touchdown run. I also thought Russell Wilson used his legs really well in this game, created with a big third down catch to Pat Freiermuth. Also ran a couple times to get some good yards, one that got him first and goal before that Najee Harris touchdown. And then, of course, the touchdown pass down the seam to Pat Freiermuth, where it was a double move on Grant Delpit, beat the LSU safety to the inside, caught the ball, and was able to finish again. That's back-to-back weeks where you use Pat Freiermuth on a long seam pass for a touchdown. Maybe some chemistry's brewing there. But then again, for Russell Wilson to be able to go around the field and use all these different players, 3 catches from Scotty Miller for 38 yards, one of them that deep ball, back shoulder throw that you've seen him do to George Pickens so many times, and you wonder, could he do that with other guys? Well, he did there. And then the thing is, he did it again with Mike Williams, who also had 3 catches for about 36 yards. They didn't need anyone to pop off in this game. They just need him to do just enough to get down the field, move the ball at the right time, win situational football, which they did. It wasn't a great third down percentage, but a better one, 6 of 14, while the Browns were 2 of 13. I think that was a huge part of this game as well. Offensive line also, I thought, performed very well in this one, moving people all over the place, opening up running lanes for the Steelers. Najee Harris, 53 yards. Jaylen Warren, 47 yards. Do the math. It's 100 yards from your running backs right there. All in all, this offense once again continues to show it has a diverse set of skill sets. It has several different ways to beat you. And when you do that, when you keep putting these types of different ways to beat you on tape, it forces defenses to have to pick and choose. Okay, what do we want to take away this week? And the crazy thing about this one is normally people would say that's the one thing whenever you heard someone nationally try to put down the Steelers and say, oh, I don't know what this offense, it's too George Pickens reliant. All they do is just throw jump balls to George Pickens. Well, they didn't do that in this one because he wasn't there. So what are you going to say now? And I think that this is a situation where Russell Wilson is able to show, like, hey, he doesn't make it all about him because, again, he only completed 15 of 26 for 158 yards and 2 touchdowns. It wasn't like he tried to just say, I'm going to put this team on my shoulder. I'm going to do all the things. He handed the ball off a bunch. He made some really smart plays. His quarterback option pass, touchdown pass to Van Jefferson, a thing of beauty. It was a great call on his part. But this is what the Steelers went and got Russell Wilson. He knows how to manage manage the games. He knows how to make the smart decisions. He won't wow you with Josh Allen throwing 5 touchdown passes or whatever, but he'll get the job done in the key spots to get you the wins. And now he's got you the wins, and you're 10-3 with him. And I think you're 6-1 since he's come in and taken over things for the Steelers, and you're in prime position with 4 games left to potentially win your division. I believe if the Steelers win next week, I do believe they clinch a playoff spot. But all they have to do, even if they lose to the Eagles and Chiefs, if they beat the Ravens in this final stretch of the season, they win the division now. That is it. That is all that they need. It would put them 3 games up on the Ravens and give them the ultimate tiebreaker with only 3 other games outside of that. And granted, you want the Steelers to finish strong. You want them to win more than 11 games, and you're 10-3. But that is the position you put yourself in, is that you're in the position where you now know, hey, there's X amount of games to win the division. And with the Bills losing to the Rams, X amount of games to maybe be in a position to have a really high seed in the playoffs. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I want to talk about this defense too, because they made some key adjustments that I thought was a really good sign of just, again, how good this defense is, and why I think there's some people out there that are like, oh, this defense isn't that good. And I think they're missing the point of how defense is played in today's NFL. We'll talk about all that next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, your host here. Stick with us. We will be right back. But first, remind you, this show is brought to you by Hillsdale College. Time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through some mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? You go to our sponsor, Hillsdale College, who is offering more than 40 free, that's right, free online courses, including Constitution 101, Intro to Free Market Economics, The Great American Story, The Rise and Fall of the Roman Republic, and many more. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced so that you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. hillsdale.edu/lockedon. We're also brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you're just picking more or less on anywhere from 2 to 6 players' stat projections on the day, and then watch your winnings roll in. Prize Picks is the fun new daily fantasy game that everyone needs to start playing right now. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with any injury insurance policy. Your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineups alive. Prize Picks have invented flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And now on Prize Picks, you can win up to 10 times your money with as little as making 4 correct picks. Prize Picks brings you NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, college sports, and so much more. Download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code LockedOnNFL to get $50 instantly when you play just $5. That's LockedOnNFL to receive a $50 bonus when you play just $5. Prize Picks, run your game. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, I'm your host, Chris Carter. Let's talk about this Steelers defense for a bit, because they had a pretty good game. I know that some people were upset because they gave up that early touchdown, but between that early touchdown, which they gave up, I think it was the 5:50 mark of the first quarter, they didn't shut the Browns out until there were 7:17 left in the game. That means since that between those 2 touchdowns, they forced a punt and an interception, a punt, 2 missed field goals, turnover downs, and another punt. The Steelers defense came to play in this one. Cam Heyward certainly leading the charge in this one with 2 sacks on the day. He has 8 on the season. If he gets 2 more, that'll be the 3rd time in the last 4 years that as an interior defensive lineman, as a defensive tackle, he has had double-digit sacks. And the only time he wouldn't have had it was when he was hurt last year. Just big stuff from him all around. Deshaun Elliott also with a really good game, 13 total tackles, 9 of those were solo. 10 tackles for Patrick Queen, Minka Fitzpatrick with 5, TJ Watt 4, the tackle for loss, Alex Highsmith back, got a sack, Elandon Roberts 3 tackles, but one of them a huge one in that 4th down stop. He just sliced through the defense, and I want to get to that stop specifically. But how about also Keeanu Benton? He only gets a tackle, but he gets a huge game-flipping interception. After that interception, you could feel the energy in the stadium shift towards the Steelers as the Steelers compounded that with a touchdown right afterwards. And this is the kind of game I think the Steelers defense plays. They create multiple turnovers. You might hit on them a couple plays here and there, but they're going to clamp down and make it really hard for you to consistently execute against this Steelers defense. And I think that was a big part of it. First, let's get to Keeanu Benton here, who talks about the plan for Russell Wilson, plan for Jameis Winston and how they played him, and also talking about how he made his interception on that screen pass.
Yeah, definitely keeping him in the pocket. I feel like last game we let him out of the pocket a little too much for our liking. And today we had to keep him in.
What did you see on the play? Was that something you read or something you saw on film?
Usually the guys across from you are supposed to block you, and when it's screen, they don't. So you find the ball, or you find the running back, or whoever they're throwing it to, and they throw it up.
And that was a little note there from Keeanu Benton. He's talking about, on the screen pass, when you see your guy move, you're supposed to go find him. If you go back and watch that play, look at his head and how he quickly figures out what's going on. The Steelers pass rush is coming. I think it was Beanie Bishop coming off the edge, and he tries to jump and try to get in Jameis Winston's way. He's screaming into his face. And Keeanu Benton, you see him go like and then he just kind of follows the lineman out. He really runs to Nick Chubb or whoever the back was in that play, and he just is like, I'm just going to sit here. And then Jameis Winston throws it. He jumps up, catches it, and then he got them moving. Keeanu Benton with a really important play. If you're watching Hard Knocks, he gave a cool speech before the night before the game against the Bengals. Looks like he's stepping into his role a little bit. Still got to get a little bit more productive at times, but I do think Keeanu Benton is finding his way for the Steelers. But certainly a guy who doesn't need to find his way is Cam Heyward. He had 2 sacks in this game, big performance. Here's Cam Heyward. I wanted him to talk about the effort the Steelers had to put in to contain Jameis Winston, because give Jameis Winston credit. That guy has played very well for the Browns. He's giving them a chance in a lot of these games, and certainly he's making bad mistakes here and there, but his ability to extend plays with his legs, I think is a skill that he's improved upon. And Cam Heyward talked about how they had to improve upon how they stopped it in this game. Here's Cam Heyward after the game.
What adjustments did you have to make to keep those escape lanes closed out after that point?
I think it was, a coordinated rush, outsides, not getting too far of the field, the inside pressure, understanding you might have 2 gaps instead of 1. That's all got to be talked about. You got to run coordinated games along with it. I thought we did a pretty good job of that today.
I think this is one of the more underrated parts of the Steelers defense, is that their adjustments in game, they're so slight. They're not like, oh man, this is obviously leading to 12 sacks or something like that. But they're so slight that they adjust what offenses have to do and kind of take away their momentum in game. And it's happened so many times this year. You think back, it's tough to list them all out right now unless I look at the schedule. But you think back, after the Falcons got a touchdown drive in their game, they took it away from them after that. The Chargers, they got a touchdown drive in the game. They took it away from them after that. The Raiders found some early success, gone. Jets, early success, gone. The Giants were the one game I thought they could have been, pretty decently better at. The Commanders, it was a good offense they were playing. They came up with enough good plays in the right moments. You look at the Ravens game with the stops they made there. Even the Bengals game last week, where they gave up a lot of points, but they created the necessary turnovers to flip the game back in their favor and give the offense the chance to dictate the pace of the game, and they did. And then this week against the Browns, you come out and the first drive of the game, you're pretty strong. You don't allow you get a 3 and out. You kind of pin them down in their own end zone, which gives you good field position, and the Steelers offense turns it into 3 points. And then you do have a 7-play, 70-yard drive you need to be better at. But again, after that, 5 plays punt, 3 plays punt, 1 play interception, 3 plays punt, miss field goal at the end of the half, miss field goal at the start of the next half, turnover on downs, punt. That's dominance when you get that. And then again, sure, they gave up a touchdown late in the fourth quarter, but then after a Cordero Patterson fumble, the Browns are set up with a chance to kind of score and then maybe make it a game and try to get an onside kick or something. And what happens? It's 2 plays, interception. The Steelers defense kind of forces Jameis Winston to hit certain windows. He misses one. You capitalize on it. That's what you do as a defense. You try to make teams not be able to play to their strengths throughout the game. You try to force quarterbacks to have to be consistently accurate, to have to keep hitting the right things over and over and over again. And you know what? If sometimes they do, good for them. But when you're able to get them there and they make a mistake, you have to be ready to capitalize on it. The Steelers did in this game 2 interceptions by this defense, one by a defensive lineman. First time a defensive lineman's picked off a pass since 2021. Cam Heyward did that one. And then James Pierre with the other one, filling in and doing a good job of filling in for the Steelers in the secondary. But this is a defense that even when, TJ Watt isn't going ballistic, even when they're throwing everything they can to make sure that he's not a factor in the game, you're finding ways to win. You're finding ways to get home. And that's what the Steelers defense did in this game. A sack from Highsmith, 2 from Heyward, pressures from all around. Really good help against the run in this game. Nick Chubb, had one long run of 19 yards. Really, other than that, they took him out of the game. Same thing with Ford, their other running back. I thought they did a good job there, and they contained everything for the most part in this game. Jerry Jeudy had that early touchdown, was kind of on the broken play, but there was no structural thing that the Browns were able to consistently rely upon in this game to get them to move the ball down the field. Whereas on the flip side, the Steelers were able to hit the seams. They were hit those back shoulder downfield passes. They were able to run the ball at several points of this game. That's the thing about this defense that I think they do so well. If you're going to beat them, oftentimes it's going to be because you're able to hit on some random things here and there, but not on something that you plan as much, not something that you're able to hit consistently. More often than not, this defense takes away what you want to do and forces you to win in unconventional means. And that's not to say they always do it, because there's sometimes other teams get the best of them. They're human just like everybody else. But this defense is really good. Another opponent under 16 points. I'm curious to see where they'll rank after this weekend in the total defense and scoring in there. But again, it's adjustments that make the play there. And I think one other good sign of how they adjust, if you go back to that 4th down stop that the Browns had. Remember, the Browns crushed the Steelers on 4th down last week. It was they were 5 of 5, not last week, 2 weeks ago. It was 5 of 5 on 4th downs. And you remember that 4th down stop in the game Sunday. Landon Roberts slices into the backfield, but I asked him about this because I thought it was really interesting how quickly he just bursted through the line. I thought that the defensive line and Alex Highsmith did a really good job keeping him clean on that play. But it was something that he did. I went back and I noticed, just looking at the highlights, not even the all-22 yet. And what the Browns were trying to do, they were trying to use number 81 on their offense. I don't know if he's a wide receiver or a tight end. I'm my mistake. I'm not looking that up before this, but They used him lining up as sort of like a split wide guy, and his job was to come crash down and just bump Landon Roberts to the inside so that he can't shoot that gap. And Landon Roberts recognized this and shot the gap so fast that guy could not touch him, and that was a big part of the play. And that was an adjustment that him and the Steelers saw from the last game. So listen to Landon Roberts explain that when I was talking to him in the Steelers locker room, as well as him talking about the adjustments that the Steelers defense is able to make game in and game out. Here's Landon Roberts in the Steelers locker room.
Walk us through that 4th down stop, what you saw to get in the backfield so quickly.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy because I remember playing in Cleveland last year. Ford came in the game, they kind of did something like that, so I knew it was going to be on the perimeter. Me and Six really didn't know what way it was going to go, but 81, a dirty work guy, so I kind of peeked out there. I seen 81 on my side, so I kind of anticipated it coming my way and stuff like that, and being able to make a play for the team. That was all it was about for me.
What was the adjustment you guys made after their first score? You guys kept them off the board until the 4th quarter.
I think just playing within your defense. Like I always say, week in and week out, man, it's pros over there too. So any type of maybe things that we do that maybe puts us a little out of position, no matter, we don't know, what may that be, but, teams take advantage of it, and we was able to come to the sideline, make adjustments. That's why we got good players and good coaches, so we all can get on the same page. We made them adjustments, got our coverages a little bit more tighter and stuff like that, and we was able to, put some things together.
I think it's those adjustments. This defense is smart. They have a lot of veterans on it. They're able to talk to it. And the young guys like Peyton Wilson and Beanie Bishop and, other guys that they're adjusting, Nick Herbig and stuff, they're able to kind of fall in and get behind these guys. This is the kind of leadership you want, because now they're learning that culture of what it takes week in and week out. It's not just one thing. It's not just one adjustment. It's not just, all right, let's get tougher now. It's not, hey, they're doing this. Let's take this away. Let's readjust. Let's try to see, okay, this is what they wanted to do this game. They take away, and they do that so consistently this year. And I think that's something that deserves to be applauded. And it's why this team, I think, is so dangerously balanced. And I talked about how balanced the offense is, with how Russell Wilson can hit you in so many different ways, but this team can also hit you in so many different ways, from the offense to the defense to the special teams. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, That's why these Pittsburgh Steelers might just be the most dangerous team in the AFC right now. We'll get into that in some post-game comments from Cam Heyward, where he talked about that compared to other teams that he's been with the Steelers after the game. That's next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, remind you that this show is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook in America. You got to download FanDuel today because FanDuel gets you all your favorite betting options, whether you want to bet on NFL, NBA, NHL, college sports, fight sports, so much. There's so many options. There's too many to choose from because you can choose them all on FanDuel Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook in America. And right now, your first Steelers-Eagles lines going into next week, the Eagles open up as 4.5-point home favorites over the Steelers. The Steelers money line sitting at +190. The Eagles sitting at -230 with the over-under set at 44.5 points. Where will you put your money as Pittsburgh heads to Philadelphia to win that game against the Eagles next Sunday at 425? All that and more can be bet on at FanDuel Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook in America. And right now, you can get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first bet of $5 or more today. There's $150 of free bets today to new customers if you hit on just your first $5 bet. Only on FanDuel.com. Visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, I'm your host, Chris Carter. We continue our show here today, and let's talk about where the Steelers are right now, because this is not where the Steelers have been for the past several years. You think about it. Normally, this part of the season, they're looking to try to stay in the playoff race. They're like, oh, we're right on the outside. We're right trying to push their way in. No, right now the Steelers are 10-3, and they are in position to maybe even clinch a playoff spot next week with a win over the Eagles. But let's look at where they are right now in total. This is being recorded during Sunday Night Football, so we do not know the results of Chargers of Chiefs. So that could be, but either way, even if the Chiefs lose this game, the Chiefs would be 11-2. They'd still hold on to the first seed. But the Steelers are tied with the Bills right now at 10-3. Now, the Bills temporarily hold a tiebreaker because they have the better record in common opponents. Their strength of victories is higher. Their strength of schedule and the wins is higher right now. Now that can adjust. If the Steelers were to beat the Eagles and the Chiefs, those strengths of victories numbers would flip, and I think the Steelers would eventually overtake them. But I think that's the thing here, is that the Steelers have positioned themselves to, maybe with the Bills' loss, and remember they play the Lions next week. That's going to be a huge game of the week type of game. With that, the Steelers might be in position to grab the 2 seed, and if the Chiefs can drop one game outside of the Steelers game, the Steelers would control their own destiny to get the 1 seed in this conference. That's pretty crazy when you think about it. Like to think about the Steelers, winning the division seemed like it was, ridiculous. It was out of hand. It was just poppycock. It was just noise. It was Steelers fans being crazy to win the AFC North this year with the Browns and the Ravens and the Bengals. There was just no way they could do it. And now they're in the driver's seat to do it. And they have a decent shot at being a 2 seed, maybe even a 1 seed with the way things have played out. And again, when you look at it, it's because in these games, you go back through their schedule this season. You think about how they've won games when they were playing without Russell Wilson. They had Justin Fields in the first 2 games. Justin Fields was kind of figuring things out. The defense shut the Falcons down for 10 points. The Broncos down for 6. The Steelers offense was just enough to get them over the hump. The Chargers game, Justin Fields started to light it up a little bit, got 20 points in that one. The Steelers defense still elite. They did lose 2 games there, but they come back against the Raiders, blow them out of the water, and everything looks great. But then Russell Wilson comes in, and they continue to put up the points. 37 points against the Jets, 26 points against the Giants, and you're starting to think there, then especially after that 28-point performance against the Commanders, like, whoa, wait a second, is the Steelers' new MO actually just being great on offense? Are they just going to be lighting up points for the rest of the season? And there were some bumps and bruises there, because then they put up 18 points against the Ravens. But hey, again, in that point, That's where the defense comes back in. The special teams comes back in. Chris Boswell hitting all 6 of his field goal comes in there. So the defense needs to ride it out. Then again, the offense returns for a big game against the Bengals right when they need it. And then both units and all 3 units converge to win in their game over the Browns today. It's a balanced team, and that's what I think really makes this offense true. This team, excuse me, I keep just referring to the offense, but that's what truly makes this team dangerous. And now you're sitting here 6-1 since Russell Wilson's taken over, 10-3 overall on the season, and since Russell Wilson's taking over, I think that's a really good sign of just how well this offense has played. And it's backed up this defense that we knew was going to be very good this year. Listen to Cam Heyward when I asked him about where this team kind of sits compared to, other teams that he's played on, because he's been with the Steelers longer than anybody. Here's Cam Heyward.
Cam, you've been a leader in this organization for a long time. Do you feel like there's something different about this team and how it's carried itself through the ups and downs of the season?
I think we just have a complete team. We have a team that's complementary of everybody. I'm not saying that against the teams we've had in the past, but you can look at the time of possession on the offensive side of the ball. You can look at the big special teams plays. You can look at the defense's big plays as well. All 3 facets. There's playmakers. There's guys that can take over a game, and we need it week in and week out. But we have the guys to do it.
Cam, you get any?
So right there, you hear Cam Heyward talking about the balance factor that they have there. Now, the Steelers in this game were dead even in time of possession. But again, against a team like the Browns, that's what you want to do. You don't want to give them the chance to keep having the ball. Also, I think that's a big thing there. But also the Steelers, they've been the number 1 time of possession team in the NFL this season, with averaging 32 minutes and 42 seconds of having the ball in a game. That's a really good sign for your offense when you're looking at what you're trying to get out of them. And then again, when you look at the Steelers and how they've played offensively, they're averaging right now 24.8 points per game. I believe that's actually right now. It's still right on the cusp at 10 points per game. That could adjust with the Chiefs game tonight because they're the team that's right behind them, 24.8 points. But when you factor in Russell Wilson as the quarterback, they're actually averaging 28.4 points per game when Russell Wilson plays. If that was their season-long average right now, they would be the 5th best scoring team in the NFL. And if you had told somebody that going into the season, they would have said, go home, you're drunk, because the Steelers offense can't be that good. And now again, you're talking about a balanced team, a team that's figuring things out to win with offense and defense, and in tough games, divisional games, the games that everyone said was the gauntlet. There's no way they would have win these games, and against good teams. The Browns aren't a good team, as George Pickens said after the game last time. And I guess he was right. He didn't have to even be on the field for the Steelers to prove that right, that the Browns weren't a good team. They're beating teams like the Commanders. They're beating teams like the Ravens. They continue to beat good teams down throughout this season. The Chargers looked like a good win. The Broncos look like a good win. And now you get a really strong stretch that everyone's kind of been looking forward to see. Can the Steelers come out of this stretch not beaten and bruised? At Philadelphia, where the Steelers haven't won since the 60s, at Baltimore, where the Steelers have recent success, and they are 9-1 in the last 10 games these two teams have met, or whatever number that is. You always know going to Baltimore is not easy. And then you get the Kansas City Chiefs at home on a short week on Christmas Day. That is not going to be easy. It's not. They're the number 1 team. And then you still get the Bengals back home. It's not an easy stretch, but if there's a team in the past, maybe 5-6 seasons, maybe back until even 2016, that of a team that's best prepared to handle both sides of the ball at the same time, I think this is that team. If you think back to it, the Steelers defense right now, they're giving up 18.3 points per game. That's the 5th best scoring rate in the NFL right now. As far as defensive scoring numbers, and that's that you combine that with the fifth best scoring defense, the 10th best scoring offense, 5th best when you consider Russell Wilson and what he's been able to put together. That's the most balanced team that the Steelers team has seen in a very long time. even when the Steelers defense was great in the late 2000s and the early 2010s, the offense was kind of like, oh, just okay. They did enough to get you over the hump, which is what we thought this year was going to be about. Hey, just get the defense to be elite, get the offense to be just good enough, and you could be one of those teams that's battling in December and January, and then eventually maybe even February if you got crazy enough. But now this team has shown they are balanced. They're one of the top defenses and one of the top offenses in the NFL. And this isn't 1 or 2 weeks anymore. This is months of doing this. So Steelers fans, get excited. Your team is good. No. Very good. And they have a chance to prove they are great as this season continues. We'll keep you covered here all season long here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Carter Critiques. Read my work at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, post-gazette.com. Find me here on the Locked On Steelers podcast every Monday through Friday right here on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of our daily Monday through Friday episodes. Back here tomorrow with Stars and Skulls grades right here on the Locked On Steelers podcast.